Command, the Deathworlder just walked through our kill zone carrying office supplies and humming. Korvax's mandibles clicked in disbelief as he watched his tactical display. 3 days of planning. 3 days of positioning his elite reconnaissance unit in perfect ambush formation along the contested border ridge. The enemy forces pinned exactly where he wanted them, unaware they were being observed. Their supply convoy scheduled to arrive in exactly 14 minutes. Everything had been flawless. Until 30 seconds ago, when a human female in a bright yellow vest had simply walked through the middle of his carefully arranged crossfire, carrying 3 boxes stacked so high he couldn't see her face. "Repeat that, strike leader," Command responded, their tone suggesting Korvax had finally lost his mind after too many border deployments. "There is a Deathworlder walking through my kill zone." Korvax watched his tactical advantage evaporate in real time as every member of his 6-person squad turned to stare at the impossible sight. She appears to be delivering something. According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. "Strike leader, confirm you said Deathworlder and delivering," Command said slowly. "Confirmed. She's carrying packages. She just walked past Jotaro's position. He didn't shoot because he thought she was a hallucination." The human stopped directly in the center of the ridge, the exact point where Korvax had calculated maximum exposure to enemy fire, and set down her boxes. She pulled out a small device, consulted it, looked around, picked up the boxes again, and started walking back the way she'd come. "She's turning around," Korvax reported, his voice distant. "Command, she just walked through atmospheric spore density that should require full protective gear. Our sensors indicate 47 degrees Celsius at ground level. The gravity here is 2.4 times standard. And she's humming." Jotaro's voice crackled over the squad channel. "Strike leader, what are our orders? The enemy has visual on the Deathworlder. They've stopped moving." "I think they're as confused as we are." Korvax watched the human walk back through his kill zone, boxes still stacked impossibly high, yellow vest practically glowing in the harsh sunlight. She was heading directly toward his position. "Nobody shoot the Deathworlder," Korvax ordered. "Repeat, do not engage the civilian." The human stopped 3 meters from Korvax's concealed position. She set down her boxes again. He could hear them thud against the ground with a weight that should have been impossible for her frame to carry, and called out cheerfully, "Hey, sorry to bother you, but I'm looking for Administration Building C. My GPS says it should be right around here, but I'm not seeing any buildings. Am I in the right area?" Korvax stared. The human couldn't possibly see him. His camouflage was military grade, designed to fool thermal sensors and visual spectrums across 17 different species. She was looking directly at a rock formation. "Ma'am," he said carefully, deciding protocols could go straight to the waste recyclers at this point. "This is an active combat zone. You need to evacuate immediately." The human's face brightened. "Oh, there you are. Wow, that's some serious camouflage. I almost didn't see you." She laughed, a sound that seemed completely incongruous with the tactical crisis unfolding around them. "But seriously, Administration C? I've got a delivery that's supposed to be here by 1400 hours, and I'm already running behind." "Ma'am, I cannot stress this enough. You are standing in the middle of a military operation. There is no Administration Building C. This is a contested border zone." The human pulled out her device again, frowning at it. "That's weird. My work order definitely says—" She turned the device around to show him. "C, Administration Building C, Sector 7, Ridge Formation Alpha. That's here, right?" Korvax's tactical display started screaming alerts. The enemy convoy was arriving early. Of course it was, because his perfect operation wasn't already completely compromised. "Strike leader," Jotaro said urgently. "Enemy forces advancing. They appear to be, sir, they're approaching the Deathworlder's position." All units hold position, Korvax ordered. He looked at the human who was still studying her device with a confused expression. Ma'am, I need you to come with me right now. We need to get you to safety. Oh, I appreciate that, but I really need to find this building. My boss gets super cranky when deliveries are late. She picked up her boxes again. Korvax's suit sensors calculated their weight at approximately 90 kilograms and started walking toward the enemy position. Maybe those guys over there know where it is. Those guys, Korvax said, abandoning his concealment and moving to intercept her, are enemy combatants who will absolutely shoot you. The human stopped. Wait, seriously? You guys are having an actual fight right now? Yes. Oh man, and I just walked right through it? She laughed again. That explains why everyone's been so quiet today. Usually people at least wave when I drive past. Command's voice cut through Korvax's growing panic. Strike leader, we're reading multiple biosignatures converging on your position. What is your tactical status? Compromised, Korvax said flatly. The Deathworlder has created a neutral zone. Enemy forces are approaching non-aggressively. I think they're as confused as we are. An enemy soldier appeared over the ridge, weapon lowered, staring at the human. Then another. Then what appeared to be their unit commander, a Vexthul whose crest was flaring with obvious agitation. You, the enemy commander said, pointing at the human. Delivery contractor, what are you doing here? The human's face brightened with recognition. Oh, hey, commander, She squinted at him. Sorry, I'm terrible with names. You're the one who ordered those protein bars last month, right? Vexthul designation Rahil, the enemy commander said. And yes, you delivered them to Forward Operating Base 12. Right, how'd you like them? I wasn't sure if I got the right flavor. Korvax felt reality sliding sideways. You've been delivering to enemy positions? Well, yeah, the human said as if this was obvious. They put in orders, I deliver stuff. That's kind of my whole job. She turned back to Rahil. Hey, do you know where Administration Building C is supposed to be? My system says it's right here, but I'm not seeing it. Rahil's crest flattened in what Korvax recognized as deep confusion. There is no Administration Building C in this sector. This is disputed territory, no permanent structures. Huh. The human set down her boxes again and started going through them. That's really weird, because I definitely have 3 boxes of office supplies addressed here. Staplers, printer cartridges, the boring stuff. She pulled out a piece of paper. Order placed by Administrative Officer Xylax? Does that name ring any bells? Korvax's translator almost failed. Did you say Xilax? Yeah, you know them? That's my administrative officer, at base camp, 40 kilometers from here. The human looked at her device again, then smacked it against her palm. Ugh, I think my GPS is glitching again. It's been doing that since I drove through those thermal canyons this morning. Probably messed with the sensors. She looked up brightly. So which way is your base camp? I can probably still make the delivery on time if I hurry. You drove through the thermal canyons? Rahil asked, his voice distant. The ones with the sulfur vents? Yeah, they're on my route. Why? Those canyons are considered impassable, Korvax said. The temperature variations alone. Oh, they're not that bad, the human said, waving dismissively. I mean, you've got to watch out for the vents, obviously, but if you time it right and crack the windows for airflow, it's totally fine. Saves like an hour compared to going around. Command's voice had taken on a strange quality. Strike leader, did the Deathworlder just say she drives through the thermal canyons? Confirmed, Korvax said. He was watching Jataro's sensors, which were now fully focused on the human. The readouts were nonsensical. Her core temperature should be spiking in this heat. Her respiration should be labored in atmosphere this thick with spores. She should be struggling under the gravity. She was doing none of those things. She was standing there in a yellow vest and work pants, looking slightly annoyed about a GPS malfunction. Strike leader, Command said slowly. We're patching in Xenobiology Specialist Vexia. Stand by. The human, apparently oblivious to the fact that she'd just caused two military units to completely forget they were supposed to be fighting each other, had pulled out a bottle of water and was taking a drink. "Man, it is warm today. Anyone else want some water? I've got extras in my truck." "You have a truck," Arhill said. It wasn't a question. It was the statement of someone whose worldview was actively collapsing. "Well, yeah. How else would I deliver stuff? It's parked down at the base of the ridge. Couldn't drive it up here because of all the rocks." She said this as if the rocks were the only obstacle, not the 47-degree heat, toxic atmosphere, crushing gravity, and active military operation. A new voice joined the communication channel. "This is xenobiology specialist Vexia. Strike leader Korvax, I need you to describe the Deathworlder's current condition in detail." Korvax did. He described her casual stance, her normal respiration, the weight she'd been carrying, the route she'd taken. When he finished, there was a long silence. "That's impossible," Vexia said finally. "And yet," Korvax replied. "Excuse me," the human said. "I don't mean to interrupt, but did you just call me a Deathworlder? Is that like a nickname or something?" "You're from Earth, correct?" Vexia asked. "Oh, yeah, born and raised, Connecticut specifically." She smiled. "Are you guys all in communication with each other? That's pretty cool tech." "Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld," Vexia explained, her voice taking on a lecturing quality. "Gravity 1.0, extreme weather variations, toxic atmosphere composition, predator species density." "Wait, Earth has a toxic atmosphere?" the human interrupted. 21% oxygen at sea level. That concentration is lethal to most species." "Huh, I never really thought about it that way." The human looked around at the assembled soldiers from both sides, who had somehow formed a loose semicircle around her. "So you guys can't breathe regular air?" "Your regular air would kill me in approximately 6 minutes, Arhill said. "Wow, that's really weird to think about." She took another sip of her water. "But hey, at least you've got good protective gear, right? I mean, you're all here breathing fine." "We're breathing fine because this planet's atmosphere is within acceptable parameters," Korvax said. "You're breathing fine because you're from a planet where the air actively tries to kill visitors." "Connecticut air never tried to kill anyone," the human protested, "except maybe during pollen season. That gets pretty rough." Jotaro's voice cut in. "Strike leader, the Deathworlder's truck. Sensors indicate it's been running continuously in 47-degree heat for the past 4 hours. That should be impossible for any standard vehicle." "Oh yeah, I modified the engine," the human said cheerfully. "It kept overheating, so I rebuilt the cooling system and upgraded the power distribution. Works way better now. I can share the specs if anyone wants them. The original design was kind of inefficient." There was another long silence on the command channel. "She modified her vehicle," Vexia said slowly. "A civilian delivery contractor modified her vehicle to operate in conditions that military-grade equipment cannot." "Apparently," Korvax confirmed. The human had pulled out her device again and was frowning at it. "Okay, so if your base camp is 40 kilometers that way, and I need to backtrack to my truck, I can still make it by 14:30 if I really push it. That's not too late, right?" "Ma'am," Korvax said carefully, "how many deliveries do you have scheduled today?" "Oh, just 6 more after this one, though 3 of them are in the valley beyond the ridge, so I'll need to go through the canyons again. Why?" "The valley beyond the ridge is also disputed territory," Arhill said. "There's an active patrol route through that sector." "Yeah, I usually wave at the patrol guys. They're super nice." She hefted her boxes again. "So anyway, which direction did you say your base camp was?" Korvax looked at Arhill. Arhill looked back at Korvax. Some kind of understanding passed between them, the kind of understanding that only came from both experiencing something so far beyond normal parameters that previous hostilities seemed almost quaint. "Strike leader," Command said. Recommend you escort the Deathworlder to her delivery location and then return to your primary mission. Negative, Command, Korvax replied. Our primary mission is completely compromised. The enemy has full visual on our positions. Tactical advantage is lost. He paused. Also, I think we need to discuss something with Rahil. The enemy commander nodded slowly. I agree. Open channel? Open channel. Korvax switched his communication to a frequency both sides could access. Commander Arhill, correct me if I'm wrong, but your forces have been fighting for control of this ridge for the past 6 months because it's the only viable supply route through this sector. Correct. Your forces want the same access. The Deathworlder crosses this ridge daily, with a ground vehicle carrying supplies. Rahil's crest slowly began to rise. She also mentioned the thermal canyons, which our geography specialists declared impassable, as did ours. They both turned to look at the human, who was drinking more water and checking her smart pad. Ma'am, Korvax said carefully, how long have you been making deliveries in this sector? Oh, about 8 months now, ever since I took over this route from Jenkins. He retired to Florida. She smiled. It's actually a pretty nice drive once you learn where all the tricky spots are. The tricky spots, Arhill repeated. Yeah, like the canyons are totally passable if you go early morning when the vents are less active, and the ridge here is actually easier to cross if you go about 100 meters south where there's less loose rock. The valley route is trickiest because of the patrol schedules, but everyone's been cool about letting me through. She paused. Well, except for that one. Time I accidentally drove through a training exercise. That was awkward, but they were super nice about it. Korvax pulled up a topographical map on his tactical display. Show me your routes, all of them. The human shrugged and came over, setting down her boxes to pull out her own device. Sure, so I usually start here at the depot, then head north through. She traced a path with her finger. Korvax watched as she casually outlined routes through terrain his military had spent months trying to navigate. Shortcuts through areas marked as hazardous. Passages that supposedly didn't exist. A whole network of roads and trails that had somehow never appeared on any official survey. How did you find all these routes? He asked quietly. Just drove around until I figured out what worked, the human said. I mean, GPS is helpful, but sometimes you've just got to explore a bit, you know? See what's actually there versus what the map says. Rahil had moved closer, studying the routes. His crest was now fully extended, a sign of extreme agitation in Vexthul physiology. These routes would solve our entire strategic dispute. What dispute? The human asked. We've been fighting, Korvax said slowly, over access to supply lines because we believed certain terrain was impassable. Oh, the human looked between them. So, you guys could have just shared routes, like talked about it? The silence that followed was profound. We're updating our strategic assessment, Command said finally. Strike leader, recommend immediate tactical review with enemy forces. Also recommend we hire the Deathworlder as a logistics consultant. I don't think my boss would go for that, the human said cheerfully. But I'd be happy to share my route maps. I actually made a whole database of optimal delivery paths. Comes in super handy for training new drivers. Vexia's voice had taken on a strange quality. A civilian contractor has better geographical intelligence than our combined military forces. In my defense, the human said, I drive through here like 5 times a week. You guys probably don't do that, right? We patrol this sector twice monthly, Rahil admitted. More frequent patrols were deemed too resource-intensive given the terrain challenges. Yeah, the terrain can be finicky, the human agreed, but honestly, it's not that bad once you get used to it. I mean, it's way easier than driving in Connecticut during winter. Now that's legitimately scary. Korvax made a command decision. Rahil, I'm requesting an emergency ceasefire to discuss strategic realignment. Agreed. I'll contact my command. Rahil looked at the human. Can you transmit those route maps to both our systems? Sure. What's your data format? 20 minutes later, both military commanders were studying identical maps that rendered months of tactical planning completely obsolete. The human, whose name Korvax had finally learned was Emma Johnson, had finished her water and was checking her smart pad again. "Okay, so I really do need to get going," Emma said. "My next delivery is scheduled for 1,500 hours, and I still need to drop this stuff at your base camp. Can someone point me in the right direction?" "I'll have a unit escort you," Korvax said. "It's the least we can do after all this." "Oh, you don't have to do that. I've got my GPS working again, just needed to recalibrate it." She picked up her 90 kilograms of boxes like they weighed nothing. "But thanks anyway. You guys have a good rest of your ceasefire? Is that what you're calling it?" "Tactical realignment," R. Hill said. Cool. Well, good luck with the realigning." Emma started walking back toward the ridge edge, then paused and turned around. "Oh, and maybe you guys could put up some signs or something, like active combat zone or whatever, just so delivery drivers know to be extra careful. That would be super helpful." Korvax watched her disappear down the slope, her humming fading into the distance. His tactical display showed her reaching her truck, a modified civilian vehicle that apparently outperformed military transport, and starting the engine. "Command," he said slowly, "I'm going to need to completely rewrite my after-action report." "Understood, Strike Leader. We're already updating protocols to account for Deathworlders' civilian personnel." There was a pause. "Also, the Xenobiology Department wants to know if the Deathworlder would be willing to participate in a comprehensive logistics study." "I'll ask her next time she drives through," Korvax said, which, based on her schedule, will be tomorrow morning. Rahil's forces were already withdrawing, their commander having apparently reached similar conclusions with his own command structure. The former enemy, officer nodded to Korvax before departing. "This is going to be an interesting conversation with headquarters." "Agreed." Jotaro approached Korvax's position, his camouflage deactivating. "Strike Leader, did we just end a 6-month territorial dispute because a human delivery driver got lost?" "No," Korvax said, watching Emma's truck disappear into the thermal canyons that were supposed to be impassable. "We ended a 6-month territorial dispute because we didn't think to ask a human delivery driver for directions." The truck's engine hummed steadily, that modified, impossible engine that operated in conditions that should destroy it. Emma was probably humming too, completely unaware that she'd just accidentally resolved a military standoff by casually demonstrating that every assumption both sides had made about the terrain was wrong. Korvax started the long process of packing up his position. 3 days of preparation, rendered completely obsolete in 30 minutes. "Think she'll make her 14:30 delivery?" Jotaro asked. Korvax checked his chronometer. It was currently 14:10. Emma's destination was 40 kilometers, away through challenging terrain. "Probably early," he said. His tactical display pinged. A message from command. "New protocol established. All future operations to account for Deathworlder civilian logistics personnel. Classification, threat level minimal, operational disruption potential maximum." Korvax filed his preliminary report and began the hike back to base camp. Somewhere ahead of him, Emma Johnson was driving through impassable terrain while humming, completely oblivious to the fact that she'd just rewritten military doctrine for 2 separate armed forces. He made a mental note to recommend that someone put up those signs she'd mentioned. It seemed like the least they could do.